Okay guys, I'm gonna show you how I pull out of the market, why, and what were my triggers. I'm gonna tell you first that I'm not a financier and this is not a financial advice. This is just me being very protective of the money that I worked very hard for and don't wanna lose it. So I entered the market somewhere on this time, you can see around 2020 actually, and it spiked up, and I noticed that the spike is abnormal, so correction is going to come on us. So I was very concerned, and I ended up pulling the money roughly at the second part of January, which was somewhere around here. It's kind of hard to see it, but somewhere around here. So how and why did I know it? Okay, so lots of paranoia, but let me explain what was the logic behind the paranoia. So we're going to be focusing, this is the historical chart for the S&P 500. And if we look at the history of the S&P, you can see clearly the major two crises. I am not going to consider March 2020 as a crisis. I'm going to consider those two, which is 2000 and 2009. So the 2000, if you look at this, is going up. But notice how the slope over here is nothing like the slope in here, or no slope was like what we've seen. Okay, this is money printing, government throwing money. This is different slope. So what we see over here was that there was a stagnation area at the end right before the crash. So if you look at the timing, you can see over here me hovering over. It wasn't major, it was kind of like there, but it wasn't there. And it was similar over here when you look at the 2009, similar part where there was stagnation, the market wasn't going anywhere for a while before it collapsed, right? So it takes a minute before you kind of like shake the confidence for people. And if you look at that time, right, over here, there was a time where it was around $1,500, the S&P, and it was July 2000. And if you were to enter at the peak, I said, all right, you're going to enter, and it was 1,500 going straight to a recession. And it would take roughly about 7 years again over here to go and see the same amount of money, right? See, it's about 7 years, from 2000 to 2007. You would see your money again. It goes back to 1,500 7 years later, just so it's going to go to another crash and a very slow slope to go back to get your money back. So technically, you're not going to see your money until February 2013, so it can start earning in a nice organized slope going upward. So if you enter in 2000, the money is going to go down. You had a little breeze to see the same amount of money that you entered 7 years ago, just so it can crash again. So those who enter at that point wouldn't actually start gaining for 13 years. And I'm not even counting inflation. So it was very important for me to skip those parts, not to be here. This needs to be erased. And I didn't mind erasing it with some good gain. So if I am entering a market, and I did not know coming to this point if it's going to keep going up or down. I told myself if I was in 2001, and I'm going to use this one because it's easier to explain, I much rather live over here and then enter over here so I can always be in an incline, okay? I don't care if there is more for the party and people are still enjoying the party, as long as I don't have to get stuck in traffic jam over here. And as long as there is no proof of concept for the market, I don't want to get again. So it was much comfortable, much more obvious for me to just be part of I want to be every time at the part of a bull market instead of enjoying it all the way to the top and then crash falling off a cliff. If you notice the 2007, it was much more severe when there was a major capitulation over here. Look at that particular slope. Boom. That particular part took roughly 2 years or 3 years to actually recover from. It was in August 2008, and to get back to the same amount of cash, you had to wait until 2011. So you would have to wait 3 years to see your money. So it's very important to be wary and not to just stick around until the last minute. So at that point, around December, November, December, I started talking to my advisors in Goldman Sachs and asked them, do you have any indications when it's time to leave the market? And they just made it clear. Her name is Stephanie. She said, no, we're not pulling the money ever. We're looking at this as 30 years. So I decided to just take matters to my own hands. And right after the crash in Netflix, which was roughly here, a couple of days after that, I told myself, time to get out. Their argument to me was, why would you ever want to realize your gain and pay taxes? which I figure it makes no sense to explain. Why would I much rather pay taxes on a gain versus stick around for a loss for the next many years? I figure they're smart enough to understand why, or they're dumb enough that it's not making any sense to explain. Either they're smart enough to understand why and they have a different agenda, or they're just too dumb to go and explain. So I decided not to explain. And that's how I pull my market out. This is not a financial advice. This is just me doing it. I wanted to show you how I did not need any banking experience. I wasn't using any fancy terms. I wasn't using any kind of information that only I had at the time. It's simply public information. Take a look at the S&P 500 historical chart, make your own conclusion. This is how I made it. If you have questions, ask me comment down below and I will engage and be happy to answer. Have a beautiful day, guys.